Pricing your home to sell or pricing a home to sell. As the broker, I get, hundreds of calls a week, like and people are trying to price listings. Some of us are a little newer, some of us haven't done it in a while, and we're trying to figure out ways to price homes. So I'm like, cool, let's do a class on it. But really, this could be an all-day, full-blown workshop. We could talk about the HomeSmart software for using comps and doing presentations. We could talk about all the different softwares. I mean, we could just go on for an ever and ever. But I thought for today, we'd start with some of the tips and tricks I've learned over the years that have really helped me master pricing homes. Half of it, if you've been in the business more than a minute, is going to be like, yeah, okay, I kind of know that. But some of it, you'll be like, oh, that's right. And then there's a couple things I'll point out during the class that we want to say, okay, now I'm going to start doing things a little differently. Has anybody in the room ever had a listing cancel or expire or had a frustrated seller?
Yep.
That's a pretty crappy feeling. And what happens is we all say, oh, well, the seller wanted to do this, the seller picked the price, the seller. But we got to be strong enough as real estate agents to help them make educated decisions. So if your seller is still making a bad decision after your pricing presentation, it's just they can't work with you. They have to be fired. Remember my favorite thing to say, I'd rather turn you down than let you down, because I can't ruin my reputation, my company's reputation, and if I'm good enough to find somebody that's smart enough to afford a home like that, but dumb enough to overpay for it, there's a lot of whoa. What was that?
It's 11 o'clock.
There's a lot of different scripts and dialogues for that, but I wanted to kind of go back to the basics today and open it up to an interactive class, because some of it you're going to be like, no, I don't do it that way, or I do it this way, and that's totally fine, and I don't mind discussing all of those things because we can all learn from it. Let's just jump right in. Any questions before we get started? Is there anybody in here that has never taken a listing and done a CMA? Okay, perfect. All of our smart partners. All right. So our theory behind that is obviously we want to price it at market value. Does anybody disagree with that? Okay. So finding market value is the point. We want to sell any home in 30 days. Is there anybody know why we want to sell it in less than 30 days?
Because then the value, people, if it sits on the market too long, one, other buyers will start to think there's something wrong with it, and then because of that, also they'll either try and bargain down, but typically it could be even 5 to 10% less, and then the longer it sits, even after that, it continues to decrease by another 3 to 5%.
Did you all hear that? Yeah. Okay, that's good, but the real reason is because our house payment comes every 30 days and we want to pay that. So we want
that too.
We want 3 to 5 showings a week. Ever since I was brand new in the business in 1990, 3 to 5 showings a week, regardless of the market, is where we want to be. And I always tell people when I price a home for sale and I say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is what we're going for here. We want to have 3 to 5 showings a week. If we get 3 to 5 showings a week, there's no offers, it's overpriced. If we don't get 3 to 5 showings a week, it's overpriced. If we get 3 to 5 showings a week and we do get offers that are lower and the buyers walk, it's overpriced. Can you guys remember that?
Yes.
It's very simple, right? So if you say it like that, everything you do, and the best thing to say is 3 to 5 showings a week, I've proven that I've done my job with marketing. That's important. If I do all this marketing, we don't get 3 to 5 showings a week, it's just simply overpriced. Now, I know we just did a class on that not too long ago. Did you guys all take a chance and watch the Pricing Your Home to Sell video from David Knox? Anybody miss that? That's like the best video ever. And everybody should give that to their clients before you list their home, and everybody should know that video by heart. And if you don't, make sure you watch it. It's on my website. In the last several years, the pre-marketing campaign has become by far the most crucial part of our listing presentation. We've talked about it a lot, but it's actually very true. And the way this works is, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, here's the life of a listing, right? The first week, the activity's here because we're just starting. You know, maybe we have a sign up. We're not even in the MLS, or maybe a day or so. The second week, we're getting some activity. And then the third week is when open houses are done, the MLS is cranking, all the agents have woke up and actually seen what's going on. And then the fourth week, it starts to drop off a little bit. Okay, so our third week is so important as a real estate agent to have everything done by then. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, what if I could make that third week your first week? In order to do that, I need to have a pre-marketing campaign. Before we go on the MLS, I want to do a bunch of different things and have everything ready. So when we hit the market, bam, and we get that first amount of activity, but I can get that momentum going before the MLS. If that doesn't make sense, we could work on it more later, but I want them to have a full 3 weeks of super huge activity, and then that fourth week is set up because that's just naturally what happens. You hit that 30-day mark, and just like Johnny said, the buyers are saying, what's wrong with this house? But more importantly, who else is saying what's wrong with this house? The other agents. The other agents, right? The other agents go, this is a hot market. There's no reason in the world a house shouldn't sell in 30 days if it's priced right. So the other agents are going to look at it and say, well, obviously it's overpriced, or there's something really wrong with it. It stinks, it's not financeable, who knows, right?
Busy intersection.
Yeah, it just could be anything. Terrible location. But is there anybody in here that would look at a home on the market 30 days and go, wonder what's up, right? Unless it's, $2-3 million listing or something like that, or a short sale. Those types of things make sense, but in reality, we should have it. We should have it pending before that. What is that? Sorry, Skype or something.
Yeah.
All right. So pre-signed reductions are the best. It's very simple. There's always going to be a seller that says, I don't care what you say, Mike. It might be worth $475, but I want to try it at $489. I just have to. Okay, fine. If you can't convince them otherwise, it's okay to have a pre-written in reduction. So you say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we're going to hit the market Monday. The next Monday, if we don't have an offer, at least offer threats, I'm going to reduce the price. And would you agree to that now? We're going to reduce it to $479.9. And they say yes. And then if they say, well, let's see what's going on then. Say, I've been down this road a lot of times, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Here's what happens. That Monday, I call you. You want to talk it over with your spouse. And then we can't really get it cold. Now all of a sudden it's 10 days. Next thing you know, it's 14 days. Let's go ahead and put it in the listing agreement. That way our marketing will make sense. All right.
Put it on silent.
Great idea. I was going to close my email. All right. So you guys all love me and hate me when I say preview property. I can't begin to tell you how hard it is to price a property unless you know the area. I'll give you a perfectly good example. We have listed some properties in Palmdale lately, my team, and they've asked me for help pricing it. And I pull these homes up and I just go, I have no clue. I think I know, I kind of know. And then I call a couple of my friends out there, some of our agents that work here already, and I say, what do you think about this price? They're like, oh no, this other neighborhood and that and that. I'm like, see, you guys, we do a disservice for our clients when we list property out of our area, out of our comfort zone, but more important, out of our knowledge zone. And I'm the first person to admit it, but it's my cousin, Mike. Oh, you hate your cousin that much where you're going to really screw your own family? I mean, it's better to say, wouldn't you be more happy if I could honestly tell you I'd be doing you a disservice? I don't know nothing about the schools. I don't know nothing about the area. I don't know nothing about this. I mean, what do you want me to do? I can co-list it with an agent that you feel comfortable and confident with out there, but otherwise I need to refer it out. That's what I've always done. That's what I'll always continue to do, especially after what we've been through the last couple times. My favorite is the agents say, I go, what are you doing? The agent's sitting here during the day. I'm pricing a property. What? Out of a desk? You can't do that. You need to go out and see homes. You really need to know what you're doing. There's no way you could price a property properly unless it's a condo with 500 units and you can kind of get an idea. There's 3 floor plans, that's it. You can get a very close idea, and then you can kind of Google Earth it and see if it's on the busy street location or if it's got the golf course view location. And then it's a little bit easier. Everybody understand that? Okay, easy. So let's talk a little bit about our criteria. Did I see a hand go up? All right. Year built. When I have a a house is just a normal house in the middle of Valencia, I'll say, okay, what I like to do is I start to run the MLS, and I really try to go 2 years above and below to really get it narrowed down, right? And that's not always going to happen, unfortunately. There's nothing we can do, but we could start there. Like, some people like to start with a big list and narrow it down. I like to start with a little list and then make it bigger based on criteria. That way I don't have to spend hours and hours trying to whittle, it's harder that way. It's the other way. We'll get into it in a minute, but you want to get an X amount of number of each properties and then stop. And then once you have that CMA, then you can go around it and look out bigger and bigger and bigger and look. Well, that was weird. So square footage, right? Square footage, 200 up and 200 down. It's so important to keep this, as a guideline, not as a rule. And I'll give you a good example. Last week we were pricing a house. You probably saw it on Rock Canyon. I think we already sold it. The house was, Lindsay, how big was that house?
Well, I didn't do that one.
Okay. Does anybody on my team know how big that house was?
Like 3,100 feet.
3,100 square feet? Yeah, okay. And I said, all right, let's go to like 33 and let's go down to 28. But what I found out very quickly is there was lots of homes that were 3,500 square feet, 3,600 square feet. I figured out. So the point I'm trying to make is there was homes priced the same, below and above, that were a lot bigger. Again, it's knowledge of the neighborhood that was helping me, because I knew the difference between all the homes surrounding it, and I knew how to narrow it down. So previewing over the years has really helped me with that. So again, these are only guidelines, not rules. 2 years up and down in your build, 200 square feet, then you can get that real narrowed down list. But the worst thing you could do to yourself is say, okay, I got my 3 comparables, and then find out there's 2 more at 3,800 square feet that are the same price. Oh gosh, what makes ours better at 3,100? Lot size. Lot size is awesomely important, right? I mean, if you have a 10,000 square foot lot when the average lot size is 4,500, you're going to get a lot more money for that. When I say a lot more money, does anybody know on average the percentage one might use to value a bigger lot? Good answer. You can't, right? It's just like kind of that weird gut feeling. When we go to new construction, they'll say, this one's got a $20,000 lot premium. This one's got a $40,000 lot premium. And you go, how do you come up with those? And it's funny, we're working with Meritage Homes right now, and I'm talking to the sales managers about these different lots and how sucky they all are. And we're like, what do you think that should be? I'm like, let's try this. And they're like, okay. Right? That's how technical we're being on this, guys. So don't try to sit there and go, oh, there's an appraiser that's using some weird calculator. It doesn't happen. And I'm sure you guys taking appraisal courses. They have guidelines. Again, guidelines, not rules. It really helps with custom homes. And there's patches of custom homes. Again, let's try Canyon Country, for instance. We have Sand Canyon, right?
Yep.
Have you guys ever seen that little patch off of Soledad behind North Oaks that has those really cool custom homes back there? Have you ever seen that? Mm-hmm. And then there's really awesome homes up in off Sarah Highway. So you can't really just run. Let's say you were pricing one of those weird ones off Soledad. How in the world, or off White's Canyon, how in the world are you going to do that unless you run a bigger lot size, and then you could pull a bunch more in? The worst thing I could do is, let's say I'm running a tract house and I say, okay, it's 3,000 to 3,500 square feet, and I don't put the lot size in, but I have a custom house. I'm mixing up a bunch of tract houses in there too, which I don't want. So I could at least narrow it down a lot easier if I put 10,000 or bigger in, and I'm going after half-acre lots or bigger. Does that make sense? Trying to figure that out. So lot size I don't use hardly ever, unless it's a custom home I'm going after and I'm trying to whittle that down. A lot of people say, oh, the lot square foot is between 8 and 10,000. I'm like, no, just leave that out. You can kind of Google Earth it and look at pictures and figure that out from there, especially if you're going to go look at the houses, because you don't want to get rid of anything. How many times have we seen a house with a big view sell for more than a house with a big lot? Mm-hmm. So those are the types of things you got to consider. You've seen that?
Well, I'm working in Sylmar with horse property.
Uh-huh.
And there's a whole big deal about this. I'm finding out about how big it can be to have horses on it.
Uh-huh.
And the city's different from the county, and
better know what you're doing,
You know
right?
what? The appraisers don't know, the county doesn't know, and I'm like, so, you know, just get them to sign something.
Two things that come to my mind with that. We go to a seller's house and we're trying to act like we know everything, right? And these are questions that the seller might know, and they might expect us to know or think we know, and just say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is too important to guess at. Sometimes the city and the county might disagree on things, on zoning issues. I want to know what you know and how you found that out. We got to work as a team to transfer all this information to a buyer. So never be like that guy, like, I'm not going to ask because I'm going to look stupid. I'm just going to go to the city and the county and try to figure this all out if I get this listing. Don't. Let's just work as a team together, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Be totally upfront with them, and they'll appreciate that. And you can actually go, oh, you know, that's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm. Nothing wrong with that. Half the time I'm like, what? I mean, I sold an apartment building once. And try to imagine like faking it till you make it on an apartment building. I had no clue. And I was learning all this stuff from the seller. I'm like, yeah, oh God, you almost forgot that, dummy. I'm like, my God, you know? All right. The area, if you're working Santa Clarita, and I'm sure other areas which I don't know, but Santa Clarita especially, is absolutely important to consider. Again, let's use Canyon Country. There's Canyon Country 1 and Canyon Country 2, right? Canyon Country 1 cut off as what? Sierra Highway? And then you have the north of that or east of that. But when I'm pricing a house, and this happens a lot, everybody, that's a reminder to turn your phone off.
$20, my favorite charity.
It's one of those days. Did you turn that on when I wasn't looking? No. So let's say we have a house built in 1978 in Canyon Country. And let's say it's in Canyon Country 2, which is up by Shadow Pines or something in that area. And you run that listing, and you got a couple good comps, but you forget to run Canyon Country 1. But Canyon Country 1 has a lot of really nice neighborhoods that are similar. So when you're pricing a home, you have to put yourself in the buyer's shoes. There's not a buyer out there, well maybe there is, but there's not very many that say, I'm only going to live in this part, but not this part. Because they're basically the same dang thing, right? And I've learned from experience, well, we'd really like to be up in this area. And then next thing you know, they bought an open house the other day with somebody else because I didn't show them that area. But especially when you're pricing a home for sale, you got to look and say, okay, how does this neighborhood compare? How does the entrance compare? Do you have to go through an old nasty neighborhood to get to it? Is it some, those are the types of things you have to compare. So I would caution you on using area only during that. Again, if we're trying to find a wider search out, that's okay to look at it later. But you have to know the knowledge, because sometimes there might only be one comparable and they want to way overprice it, their house, and you can say, but look, here's a couple that are only a mile away that have all these features too. Most of the time the sellers don't even know certain patches of homes exist. And it's funny, I was listening to somebody in our team the other day that was previewing property, and they came to me and they're like, you are so right. I found like 4 neighborhoods that I never knew of before in Canyon Country. I'm like, I told you. There's all kinds of crazy stuff. There's little custom patches of homes and things everywhere that really make a difference. Okay, tract codes and tracts are everything in Santa Clarita. One of the, is Gene in here? No? Gene Jr. One of the things that Gene and I tried to do probably 20 years ago is make a tract book, right? And we were mapping these things. But what's interesting, and many of you probably figured out, there's tracts that go bit by bit by bit. So when Jack Shine, for instance, was building American Beauties, they would buy little blocks, here and there in these weird neighborhoods, and they'd put the same tract in there. They'd build them at the same time. So you'd go 10 streets over and find 3 houses in that tract on another street that you had no idea those 3 houses existed. So if you try to map this out, it's impossible. It just is. But it's a good thing to know the tracts, because then when you do see them far away, you're not so confused. You're like, oh, okay, that's part of that tract, that's part of this tract. And yes.
Well, and also the tracks, a lot of agents don't know the correct tracks. So they put these tracks in there and it's like, that doesn't belong to that track.
Right.
So it really screws up your CMA.
And what Cindy just said, I'm not an MLS Nazi, but that is one thing worth reporting.
I am an MLS
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
just-
Tell Cindy to do it.
I just showed and circled J-Ran, and for the life of me, I cannot understand why that is saugus. New home maybe, but why is that saugus?
Zip code.
Way far.
It's the zip code, right? So you're going to see a lot of that. You're going to have the Tesoro thing. There's all sorts of things like that you say, why is that saugus? When they built behind Ross, what is that over there? The
Where?
River Village.
Yeah.
I was like, how in the crud could you call that Valencia? It's not Valencia. It's like in Canyon Country, but
It's
whatever.
Saugus.
The field that has them?
Yeah, now it's Saugus. In the beginning, there was Valencia. I was like, there's no way. So just remember the tracks. It's really important to know the tracks. As a matter of fact, when I was new and I was previewing property, I'd grab 3 or 4 tracks a week and I'd make sure I knew every single thing about them. I'd highlight them as I'd go or check them off or whatever. And you guys know on the very front page of the MLS when you log in, it's like print MLS tracked thing. Cindy's laughing because that's the way to do it, right? And that's the only way you learn, to be honest with you. In the out of the area agents, they don't know the track name, so you can't search by tract. It's nice to try real quick, but then you're always going to find 1 or 2 that aren't right. It's just the way it is. But knowing the tract is really important, especially when you're pricing it. If you start going to the Meadows tract and the owners are there and you're just talking about, yeah, this Valencia area, and they're like, this is the Meadows, man. Don't you know the Meadows? If you don't know that, they're not going to list with you. You don't have the knowledge to represent their property properly. Does that make sense too? Okay. Map search. So for those of you that were in this class last year when we did it, you guys taught me how to do a map search. And I love the map search, don't get me wrong. But the more and more and more I talk to agents that are using the map search only, they're going, okay, let's do this little radius. And it comes back to missing a lot of things. You can't use that map search all the time. It's cool for a quick little look, but you can't use it only. So if we went back to that Canyon Country example, I would have to map the entire thing. Now you're just wide and bringing in all this stuff, and nobody's good enough to draw the thing like this. It just doesn't make sense. So I think it's okay for a general search, but if you're really truly trying to price a property, don't go that route. Zip codes. So zip codes is another deadly thing, and one of my most fun things is we have agents coming up here from San Fernando Valley that move up here, and for some reason zip codes work really good down there. But up here, do they? No, they don't. Zip codes change and they're weird, and Agua Dulce is the same as Saugus, and it's very strange. So I would not use zip codes, again, unless it's just a general thing. If you're in the habit of that, stop. You want to start getting real generalized and do a custom CMA for these people. Because if you miss just a couple homes, it could be the difference of yours selling or not. Today we sit here and we don't take this very seriously because our market's only now starting to cool off. Does everybody feel it cooling off?
Yes.
Oh, geez. Worse than I thought. There's supposed to be a couple of the top producers going, yeah, no. Everybody's like, oh, it sucks. So if you can imagine a market where you have triple, quadruple the inventory, and the buyers have 20 homes to choose from in every single price range, this is where this really comes in handy, and you got to master it, because you always have to be that best house, best condition, best location, best price, or you have no chance of selling. If only 2 homes in this price range are going to sell a week, you have to be right on your money. There's no chance. There's no being lazy. You have to go see every house. You have to video the houses for your clients, that kind of thing. It won't work. You just get used to doing it the right way now, and you'll thank yourself later. So that seems like a lot of work, right? To do that, go see all these houses, video them, and really know everything. But again, this all goes back to only do this after the commitment. If you guys haven't heard our podcast on commitment before price and haven't done the Daniel Penley training and our training, this is the time where you need to get involved. When I go to a listing appointment, do I have the comparables with me? Yes. Have I seen them? No. Do I know the market well enough to price most homes? Yeah. But still, the reality is somewhere at this point, you're going to have to ask the seller a few questions. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, based on what you've seen so far, am I the right agent for you? Do you feel you're ready to go ahead with the paperwork? And you're gonna have the nerve to tell them, look, one of the things that makes me different than the rest of all the agents is I feel the price of your home is way too important to guess at. I have some comparables, and of course I have the market knowledge to do it, but once I have your commitment that I'll be your agent, I'm then gonna go do an appraisal that's gonna take me hours and hours. The amount of good people like you that rely on me to get their home sold, that call me all the time, I would spend 24 hours a day pricing homes. But until you know that based on the firm and my marketing ability and how we feel about each other, I can't go spend that time. So what I'm gonna ask you to do is commit to me that I'm your agent, then I'll go out and price the home. And you just have to promise me one thing. If I fled you with enough good information to make a good decision and you still don't, promise me you'll tear up our agreement. And that's how you work that. There's a bunch of different ways to say it, that's just the easiest way, the quickest way. But if you guys spend 3 hours doing a CMA and some other agent comes in after you and just boots you, it's a hard lesson to learn. It's a lot of time. So then what happens is we go, well, we don't really know if we're gonna get the listing, so let's just bring the comps and hope for the best. And now you get into, the seller stands over you and says, Renee, I wanna know the price. And you're just like, oh God, okay, let's start going through comps, and you blow it. You can't do that. Yes, sir.
What if you don't really find that many comps in that area?
Great question.
Would you use taxes?
Yeah, we're gonna get to that in a second for sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. We have to exhaust all resources. We're real estate agents, right? We have access to everything in the world and we have to use it. We can spend a lot of time on this particular subject. I would go listen to our podcast, realestatemarketingshow.com. You should know it by now. Listen to that. After you've listened to that, come back to me and we could work on it some more. But there's no way you can do a CMA properly without the commitment. If you do, you have way too much time on your hands and we need to talk about your perfect daily schedule. Fair? All right. So we want to get 3 actives, right? 3 actives. And you guys, if you've ever seen an old Mike Ferry class or Tom Ferry back in the day, this is where this is all perfection. This is exactly the right way. We have to have active properties because we have to show our competition. If you show 10 properties that's active competition, that's not going to work. It just won't work. You'll confuse your sellers. That's just normal. So we have to pick the 3 that are absolutely the closest to that property. Most of the time you won't know unless you go see them. Okay? You won't know. Most agents don't put good enough pictures. They don't put the MAD reports. They don't, you just can't really do it that way. You got to go see them. The pendings and the backup offers, right? So can you picture this 3, and then 3 are solds? If you pick more than 3 solds, you're going to confuse them. More than 3 backups, you're going to confuse them. The way I like to lay this out, and 3 cancels and expireds. If I forget, when we do more of these classes, you'll hear more and more scripts and dialogues, but people always say, well, this guy is at 500,000 and you're telling me to price it at 450. And I like to tell the sellers, here's how this works. The 3 actives I'm going to show you, we like to call that fantasy land. Nobody knows. It's just flying out there. We're just, maybe. These backup offers and pendings are real. That's what we have. This is called reality. And the solds, that could be reality too, depending on how old they are. If we know our market's going down 3 to 5% a month, Mr. Smith, and this sold is 90 days, that could be unreality, right? Non-reality. So these pendings and these backup offers are what we really want to focus on. That makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. The cancels and expireds, we always say, these are the people that took a trip to Fantasyland. They found out the lines were long, nobody's on a fast pass, and it just didn't work out. In reality, it could be they lost their job, they didn't want to sell anymore, their relocation fell through, I don't know. But an expired is a pretty good indication of an overpriced listing or a really, really bad agent or both, right? So when you have a property and you have a couple, 2, 3 expireds and cancels that are a little bit over, and you could show them, look, these 3 didn't sell, and this is where you want to try. Do you want to be in the, the washed up little list here that some other agent's going to use to price your neighbor's house? No, you don't want to end up there. We talk about motivation at this point. So I like to do these on all 3 separate pages, and I like them spaced out. So we have a lot of technology, right? We're doing listing presentations on iPads, laptops. I still like the paper when it comes to comps. And I know you guys are like, ugh, but that's the one time, again, I like paper. And I will sit there and I'll circle and I'll write and I'll do things and I'll take notes. And basically the way you go through that is you go, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I've pulled these properties from all my resources. Let's go through these now. This is 123 Cherry Street. Have you seen this home? No. Have you drove by this home? No. Okay, let me explain this home to you. Here's some photos, here's some pictures, here's everything. Does this house look very similar to yours? Oh no, mine's way better. Whoa, whoa. Is it similar in square footage? Is it similar in lot size? Similar in location? Is it similar to your house? No. Okay. Is it similar in square footage? Right? You laugh, but this is what we do. Right? And then they're like, yeah, but, okay, I get your butts. Let's write that down. You have the alarm system. You have that. What else makes your home that much better?
24 karat gold.
Sure enough, that's it, right? Okay, so we take that one. Then we go to the next property. Is this one? Is this one? Is this one? They go, yeah. So now we get to the 3 actives. Here is our homes that are our competition. Do you feel any of these homes are a threat to us? Do you feel, and have this talk. Well, this one's kind of like ours, but you know, they're not asking enough money. Okay, well, they're active. Nobody wants it, right? And then you have to have that talk with them. But before you go to the backup offers, you can't get out of the actives until you've had them agree that those homes are similar and they are fierce competition, because they are. And it's different, of course, if there's no competition, and then we can talk about that later. But we're just going to go on a normal condo, tract house kind of thing. The pendings and the backup offers, and I always start that, but Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is reality. This is somebody in the last couple of weeks that has chosen a home just like yours. Well, that's not just, all right. Is this similar in square footage? And you do that. And by the time you do that 2 or 3 times, they're like, I get it, Mike. I know, yes. Okay, then they're similar, right? But I have a pool. Noted. Duly noted. What do you think that pool's worth? $100,000. Okay. And you start writing these things down. The sold properties are cool too, right? Now, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, these are sold properties. In this particular case, I went back blank days. If you can go back less than 30 days for 3 properties, that's golden, right? Reality in this market, not very often. Other markets, you have 20 to choose from. So you go over them and say, based on these 3 properties, where do you feel your home should be priced? After you slowly, methodically go through every one of those properties and have them agree with a nod that that's just like their home, you know, the better way to actually ask them is, if you were a buyer in today's market, looking at these exact same comparables with a different agent, and you were going to write an offer on your own home, where would you write the offer? Now, I promise you, 50% of the time, they're going to price it right. The other 50% of the time, you need to massage it a little bit. Okay, now, you think your pool is worth $100,000 more than the comps. Fair enough. Let's run some pool homes and compare a pool versus no pool, pool versus no pool. You'll see on average, what do we think a pool's worth? What's an appraiser allowed to give a pool worth?
5,000. 15.
When I got in the business, it was 10 to 15,000. Today, realistically, in this market, I've seen $50,000 to $75,000 in difference, depending on condition. So hopefully somewhere in the $25,000, $30,000 range is very realistic. You could probably find 2 or 3 easy to show them that. Then you start talking about upgrades, right? Well, I have granite. Well, I have hardwood floors. Well, I have new carpet. Well, I have new paint. Great. You go through all those objections, and we can go through tons of pricing objections on that class and talk about, did you do these improvements for yourself or for the next buyer? Well, we did it for, future value. What makes you think this buyer wants your hardwood floors instead of tile? Mm-hmm. Right? What makes you think they're cowboys and want wood and they're not wanting travertine? Well, everybody likes wood. No, they don't. Matter of fact, I sold a $2 million house at McMillan Ranch. I talked the lady into put granite in so we can get it sold. A week later, the person tore it out and put tile back in. I don't know. Everybody's different, right? I see people buy homes and completely gut them to their own style. So let's be honest, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, did you do this for yourself or for the next buyer? So it might be a selling point, but a selling point isn't always everything. It's kind of that old trick where we take $2 bills and we crumple one up and rub it in the dirt. We pick it back up and say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which one's more valuable? They're the same, right? Which one would you rather take? The one in better condition. That's how homes work too. Realistically, you have to compare lot sizes, right? If it's a big lot, there's probably more value. If there's a pool, there's probably more value. If it is beautiful and completely upgraded, there's probably more value. I mean, you're not always fighting these people. If it's worth it, it's worth it. You know, we want to get them the highest price in the quickest amount of time. But we know as agents, based on what we've seen, if it's just a little bit unrealistic, right?
Question.
Yes.
So in this market, since it's cooling off, do you still, anticipate it selling within 30 days?
If the market's cooling off, do I still anticipate it selling within 30 days? I don't care what market we're in, I want it to sell within 30 days. It doesn't matter if it's declining, stable, going up, I want it in less than 30 days. Every market has a threshold for price. And that's why that's what you really got to know the prices as we're going down. When I said prices are going down 3 to 5% a month, can anybody kind of picture that hasn't been in the market before that did that? I mean, that's a real number. So if you could take a $100,000 house and you're going chunks of $5,000 a month price reductions and you're still behind the ball, it's real and it happens like that. You wake up in the morning, you run the hot sheet, you're like, oh my God, you call your seller, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we have to meet tonight. Why? I can't even tell you over the phone. Your next door neighbor who has the pool and a bigger lot and the view, they just came on the market $40,000 under you. They're just like, I mean, that happens, that's so real. All right, so let's talk a little bit about software. So we have, a stupid thing. So we have the HomeSmart software. It's awesome.
Did you say stupid thing about our stuff?
No, this thing here went backwards. Apparently I super suck at PowerPoint. You guys know me, last minute I did this like in the car on the way over here. So we have awesome software. For those of you that haven't seen it or haven't tried it, you enter in an address. It validates the address. It automatically pulls comparables out of our MLS. You hand select the MLS comparables that you want. You can custom add ones that aren't in there, and it's amazing what it does. And it merges with your custom listing presentation, which is mind-blowing. It then sends that out as a link, as a website, download a PDF and print it. It is by far the best software I've ever seen for a CMA when it works perfectly. There are a few glitches in it. I've been playing with it. Some of you guys agents have called us and said, well, it doesn't do this quite right, doesn't do this quite right. The best thing you can all do is force this software to be used, and then we can make it perfect. If you don't know, we have 12 awesome programmers that sit in Phoenix, Arizona in the dark with their glasses on, reflecting and all day long. So if we do find bugs, it's reality. We can get them fixed. But this software is so cool that you should use it on every single one you do. Also, there's Cloud CMA. I think that even comes in our MLS, right? Did you have your hand raised?
Yeah. For this system, is it linked to Gabo or it's linked to your MLS that you're a part of? So on our back end, he's clicking whatever you're so if you're Gabo or Logan. Okay, thank you.
More importantly, what I'd probably do is I would keep in mind to custom make it. Hand select the comparables. There's no software that's going to pull all of it perfectly. So just keep in mind that you're going to want to add to it. So we talked about, and I think I even deleted the slide, so let's go back just a second, I'm sorry. You talked about tax records. How many of you guys have ever seen somebody say, well, this house called, or an appraiser says, this house called, you're like, it's not in the MLS, I don't see it. Lots of people sell for sell by owner. Lots of people transfer on their own. You're not always going to find homes in the MLS. Not everybody uses a realtor. Not every realtor uses the MLS. So you have to search. Also, if you were going to go price a property, I might consider looking at Zillow, right? How many of us put upcoming listings in Zillow that aren't in the MLS? Yeah. Wouldn't your seller next door to that house want to know about that? Or even worse, what if you get there and they go, what about the one I saw in Zillow next door? And you're like, I do. You look like a moron, right? We don't want to look like that. I'm like, it's not going to work. So exhaust all options to find comparables. All right, so then there's Cloud CMA. My favorite for presenting price CMAs is Prezi or PowerPoint. I like to space them out far and then print them out. So I have them on my computer and I can go through the comparables with them, and I also have them printed out so I could write on them. It's the way to go, for me at least. That way they can see very clear, nice and big. And you know how sellers are when they're fixated and concentrating on something? They just stare at the one they hate the most and go, how could that be priced like that? And so I'm writing things and they're just staring at the computer. I like that. And that's the way I like to do it. So if you wanted to put a PowerPoint together, you can easily do that. Has anybody ever used Flash CMA? Totally cool software. I mean, I don't talk about it much because we have our own pretty good software, but if you're one of those fancy people that like to go way over and beyond above or whatever you say, that's one of the coolest ones ever. Another one I really like is Realty Tools. It's not, Realty Tools makes it, I forget what it's called, maybe Realty CMA or something like that. But they're all fun software to really stand out. So if you go back and think about what I said before, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, one of the benefits of working with Team Bjorkman is we're not the type of agents, you know, and I'm sure you've even seen it. There's agents that have come to your house and laid out a couple pieces of paper and giving you a price on your house. Have you seen that, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? And they're like, yeah, like all of them did that. And you're like, can you believe, honestly, these people come into your house and they're gonna price your home by 3 pieces of paper? Did you ask them if they've even seen those homes? No, they haven't. You see, it's way too important for me to guess at the value of your home. What if I guessed $20,000 off on your home? How would you feel if I gave you $20,000 less than you deserved and you had no idea what was happening to you? The nerve of those agents to try to price your home without doing a thorough CMA on your home. When I'm going to go do an appraisal, it'll take a few hours. Can you see the benefit of listing with us? We're actually going to do things that other agents can't or won't to get you the highest price in the quickest amount of time. You like that? Shit works. Oops. Hey, let's go. Use something. So that's like, use something. All right. So I consider myself okay at pricing property. There's some people in this room that are amazing. Most of them are analytical. The MLS classes that the board offers you, just by show of hands, can I see who's actually been to one of those? All right. Not the one they forced you to go to, but the advanced ones. Okay. So there's like 1, 2, and 3. The basic one is like how to put a listing in the computer and how to run some comps. But our MLS is very customizable. If you want to, you can customize your own page to only have the things you want. So if you look down there and it says, you know, like dock. I don't have properties with a dock. I mean, do we have any in Santa Clarita with a dock? I don't know, maybe not. But you can customize the look, the feel, the whole layout of your MLS. And it helps you when you're doing your CMAs. Even more importantly, statistics. Why is it doing that? So, you guys, here's another thing we have to remember. We go to a listing appointment, maybe we are going to price the property today. And you start going over these comparables. Now we have 9 to choose from, right? When these people start asking you, well, what's the trend? What's going on? How's the market going? And we go, you know what? The market's really good as long as we price it right. We price it to sell in under 30 days. I think we have a good shot. But if you're sitting with an analytical that's been geeking out all day long on the computer, you're screwed. You need to have the statistics pulled up. Hold on, Mr. Smith, let me show you. Log into your MLS. You've customized your whole dashboard with all these beautiful red and green and cool statistics that we should know anyways. Condos, under 400,000, average price, average square footage, average days on the market. Homes, over $1 million. And you could show this to them and they're like, oh my God, this guy knows everything about the statistics. That's what an analytical wants. Because an analytical is proving you wrong all day, every day. That's all they want to do is show you you're an idiot.
Yep.
That's it. So we all should know this anyway. So again, go to the MLS classes to learn the statistics because you can blow somebody's mind, right? You guys always hear me talk about that stat, 36% of the people will list with you because you have the technology, not because you know how to use it. Imagine what those statistics are if you have it and know how to use it. You know, that's getting pretty mind-blowing. I'm a driver. I barely have time to listen to that crap. But when it comes time to selling my $1 million house, I'll probably give it 30 seconds. If you show it to me, it's pretty, it's cool, and it's quick and easy, and I understand it, that's impressive to me. Dude, all right, man. Diego, you know what you're doing. Just take this crap. I got to go back to work. Right? I mean, makes differences. All right. Customize the reports. This is good for buyers, too. Remember when we had a buyer's class, I talked about giving them the MLS printouts and they could take notes on them and stuff like that. If you could show them a printout of a house without all the crap you don't want on it, and it's just really nice and it has just what you want, there's programs that'll actually let you customize all your reports. So if you didn't want to hand put in all this crazy statistical junk, you could customize your personal CMA report. There's things I don't want the sellers to see. I don't care if it's got a septic tank or a sewer. They don't need to see any of that. They need to see what they need to see to price their home properly. Does that make sense? All right, so we have these customizable reports, and our MLS does so many vast things, it's ridiculous. Oh, I already said that's for buyers. The hot sheets. Today, hot sheets don't matter. Again, show of hands, who uses a hot sheet every day? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hot sheets are the best way to know the market. You set it up in your MLS, you hit one button, and you get to see everything you want. What's new in Valencia, what's new in Canyon Country, what's new in Antelope Valley, what's new here, what's new, what price ranges, and you can customize that self to you, so you know what you want to see. That is so cool, to keep an eye on the market. So if you commit to looking at a hot sheet every single day, and somebody asks you how the market is, and they're analytical, you can start talking some pretty interesting things to them. And they'll be like, oh, God, man, I asked how the market was, but you really know how the market is. Or you just want to follow the trends. When you are talking to somebody, you can say, man, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Smith wanted to put that house on the market, and there's like 3 of them now that are really bad comparables that are way under what we were going to price it at. I better call them. Don't you think a seller would appreciate if 3 houses came on the market under than what you were going to put there on, but better houses? You say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we need to meet. You know, I watch the market every day. There's a few houses on the market that are giving me a little bit of trouble. I want to talk to you about putting it on the market before it gets any worse. Those are the types of conversations you'll be having very soon. How's that? So it's a lot of work, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a lot of buyer's agents that say, that's why I don't want to do sellers, Mike. That's why I don't want to deal with homeowners. But honestly, this beats the hell out of driving people around in circles all day. Promise you. I'd rather go by myself for 3 hours to do an appraisal than have a baby in a car seat doing it with me. You know what I mean? Work at your own pace, that kind of thing. It's kind of a neat thing when now today we have technology and social media and different types of things. I would actually entertain sharing my CMAs with people if I did them a good job in my pre-listing package. And I think I showed you guys, this is what we're going to be doing. It's going to have a full sign in here, and it's going to say, you know, get ready to hang this sold sign, and it'll have an actual condo sign, that kind of thing. Oh, but like this sign. But if you had maybe 2 or 3 CMA printouts that were super spectacular and you were really proud of them, you could put a couple of these in here and say, here, this is what you're going to get. So when they do talk to the idiot agents that run a couple black and white pieces of paper and want to price their home on that, they're going to be all, you know that other guy that dropped that stuff off? He's got this. And that's what I want to see about my house, not that. So it's a little bit more impressive. Something to just add to your arsenal, right? What time is it right now?
50.
50? Oh my gosh.
50.
Okay, so I thought that would go the whole hour. So let's get into a little bit of pricing, scripts, and dialogues, and share with me some of your experiences that you've had that have screwed you up lately when you're doing a CMA or pricing. We've all had them. Yeah. Okay.
When you have a client whose house is just not up to par, I mean, in regards to the comps.
Right.
It needs updating, it needs decluttering, different things like that. How do you discuss that with your client? Do you just show them the other comparables, actually take them to the homes that
Yeah,
are
so
active?
like I said before, the best thing to do is video all the houses that you've gone to see, right? Embed them into your PowerPoint or whatever. And when you say, would you agree this home is similar to yours? They say yes. And then you say, well, let's make sure. This home has all brand new kitchen and bathrooms. Does yours?
No.
Okay, I'll note that. This one has all brand new roof, plumbing, and air conditioning. Does yours? No. Okay. So then we gotta add or subtract value, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Based on these things, how much do you think a roof is to put on these days? 20 grand, 15 grand? What do you think we should give this house as an adjustment for yours? And it's always good to have a BPO form. I have one on the very front of my desktop. Do you guys know what a BPO form looks like? It's just a Fannie Mae blank thing, and I show them this is what the adjustments we do are. So adjustment for a view, square footage, we go plus 10 grand, minus 10 grand. If you haven't been to Cindy's BPO class, you're crazy and you should go. So those are the types of things. And I go, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, these neighbors of yours have spent about 70 grand more than you have. How do we price yours compared to that? 50 grand lower? They're like, oh no, not that much. Well, 30? Well, yeah, maybe. Okay, and that's realistic. That's how you kind of do it. The declutter and the condition of cleanliness is a totally different conversation, right? So I use suggestive selling and assumptive closes and all that sort of stuff. So as I walk through the house, I say, what day are you guys going to get the home ready for show? And they go, what do you mean? And I go, you watched the video I sent you on preparing your home for sale, right? And they're like, no. Here's what I'd like you to do. Spend the 10, 15 minutes, watch that. It's very simple, light, bright, decluttered, airy, lights on, everything scrubbed clean with an actual sponge, And then they're like, oh, I got to do all that. Yeah, but your housekeepers will knock that out in a few hours. Yeah. And you just kind of talk like that. So is something wrong with my house? Well, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you've been to a model home? Buyers go see model homes all day, every day. So we want to make your home look as close to that as possible. If you go into a model home, do you see a toaster? Do you see a bunch of makeup and perfume all over the counter in the bathroom? No. Hair dryers, all that crap. Gently let them have that. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What else as far as pricing?
Pricing, like if it's in a less desirable location, how do you make adjustments for that?
So that's pretty simple. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, one of the things that we have to,
Repeat the question.
less than desirable location. And that's huge. We're working with Ravello right now on a community in Placerita Canyon. And they're awesome builders and they take a lot into consideration. And we're talking about there's going to be 50 homes across the railroad tracks along San Fernando Road, I call it the Newhall Avenue or whatever. And then there's homes that come around the turn in 13th Street. And then there's homes that back the equestrian area. And I'm talking to them about this at a meeting the other night. I'm saying, what are you going to do? How are you going to shield this noise? And how are you going to do that? But it was a very similar pricing. And these guys already hate me, right? Because I'm fighting their neighborhood to death. I don't want them anywhere near my neighborhood. So I'm talking to them about that. It felt like I was at a real listing appointment. So, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, one of the things we need to discuss and we need to acknowledge is when you bought this property, do you feel you got a better deal than maybe somebody on the end of a cul-de-sac on the other side? Oh yeah, one of the reasons we got this is da-da-da-da-da, and they'll probably talk about it. However, you have to be able to have the nerve to say, the comparables I'm showing you are very similar in your built, square footage, upgrades, yada yada. Here's what they don't have. They don't have a 4-lane highway in front of them, right? They don't have a school directly across. In your mind, if you were a buyer in today's market, based on the comparables I've showed you, what kind of discount would you expect or demand because of that similar location? Well, I think it's worth even more because you're closer to the exit of the neighborhood. They say that stuff, right? They will say that stuff. So you just have to be very upfront with people and say, you hired me as a professional. We went through my marketing, we went through my experience. I think we like each other, but I hope that I could be upfront with you. When I was going through my team and we were talking about this home, location came up first right away. And you've lived here, I'm sure you've known. This isn't new to you. The airplanes fly directly over your home. There's, something, the green, purple, and orange house directly. And those are the types of things you have to be upfront and talk about. And at first, ask them, if you were a buyer in today's market trying to buy your home, what kind of discount would you expect or demand? You have to say that. Do you hear those two words? Expect or demand. And then they're like, oh, God, well, I was expecting maybe this, but they're going to demand it? Yeah, absolutely. You know? And then you flip it around and say, picture when you go to a new construction, there's lot premiums. They always build the model on the busiest, worst location in the entire neighborhood. They do it for a reason. They put so much extras in it that you just fall in love with the house in hopes that you could take the super small lot in the very busy location, right? And then when they put the homes at the end of the cul-de-sacs with the views, with the big RV and huge yards, they have these lot premiums, sometimes 20, 30%. Those are the types of numbers we're talking about today. And you just slowly go through that with them. And they will understand. And sometimes they get upset. And you could say, when somebody gets upset about that, what do you say to them?
It's not you. You don't make the market. I don't make the market. It's collectively the
That's a
buyers
good
and
one.
Turn you down
sellers.
and let you down.
Yeah, that's when you absolutely can't buy something. But what'd you say? What was that?
Don't shoot the messenger.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, don't shoot the messenger. I'm sure I'm not really the messenger. I'm just the reminder in this case. I'm on your side. I'm on your team. I want all the neighbors to know I've sold this home for more money than anybody else in the last 30 days. Here's the reality. You can't shoot the messenger. We have to talk about it. And we can't have an elephant in the room, right? You've hired me based on my experience as a professional. I could not let you price this home equal to the other one over here, knowing you have a 4-lane highway that goes across your house. You can appreciate that, right? Yeah.
So now that we've seen a shift in the market, how are you counseling sellers who are considering putting their house on the market within the next 30 days, and now they're asking you whether they should wait till next year?
You know, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, that's a great question. Unfortunately, my crystal ball broke in the '94 earthquake. I don't really know how to answer that question. I'll give you a great example. I felt the market shifting last year at this time too, and I thought the sky was falling. What happened was something very different in our economy and with our country and our political scenario. We had a new president. I believe there was a false sense of hope that really worked in our favor. That's proven already. So we had a great economy boost. We had all the wonderful things happen that should. A year's gone by, and now we're back in the same position. I don't know if something could save this, like the interest rates going really far down. The interest rates, we've already been told, are going to go up. Most people can't afford to buy what they really want. Lord knows I can't afford to sell my home and buy it again here. You know, so if you ask me my opinion, all numbers, all statistics, everything based on history, is we're ready for a correction. You probably know, you've probably heard, cycles are 5 to 7 years on average. Our market really started going up high in 2011. So if we have an average of 5 to 7 years, where are we at? We could be at the top. You got to ask yourself, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, are you willing to stay in this home another 5 to 7 years to come back to this price? If the market was to go down even 20%, would that put a burden on your future plans? If you're planning on moving to Texas, if you're planning on moving to Beverly Hills, where are you moving to, and would that hurt you numbers-wise? Would that take some of your buying power away? Perhaps you have a loan amount that high to where if that happened, it would be devastating for you. Those are the types of questions you have to ask, you know. So you can say, I'll be more than happy to research at all times. I'll hook you up with every blog I see, and we can watch the market very close. One of the things I know, in the last several years, a lot of people have sold their homes that were getting out. Why? Were they upgrading, or were they getting out of the state? That has a lot to do with it. And then you have to talk to them about the cost of waiting and interest rates and all that stuff. If they're moving up, if they're moving down. If they're moving down, what do you say? You know, this home is going to appreciate at a much greater rate. 200,000 goes down faster than 100,000, right? Those are the types of conversations you have. But in reality, I don't know. Who knows? You know, they could drop a bomb on the whole East Coast and our market's going to go up. You know, you could say things like, "Hey, I've been a gambler my whole life." Okay, and sometimes I know when to take my money and run. You know, where are you at comfort-wise? If it went up another $1,000 next year, does it make a difference? Or would you rather get out now before another 8.1 earthquake like Mexico City just levels your house?
Can I just share, I just had that conversation because one of the people we've been taking out said no to me on Friday. But I came to her home on Shelter Cove. She said no.
Everybody go to our dog Shelter Cove.
She said no. And then she said, well, I don't know if I should pull this money out of my house, my equity, buy something for $350, $375, or rent it, or move up to my big house. So I said, great question, I don't know either, let's go talk to Don T. So we went over to Don T. And then Friday I showed her what we have in 375. I was like, your 3 kids and husband, you have this beautiful pool, 375. I don't know if you're gonna be happy with that. So it's Friday night, she said, no, we're gonna wait till the market crashes. And then Sunday, text me, oh, I saw a house, will you show it to me? Oh, okay. Oh no, we decided to wait. Send me the comps, we decided to wait. Oh, on the drive here, text me again. Oh, you never sent me the home. Shelter Cove, her neighbor is now on the market for $550. So she's thinking, maybe I should sell now.
See this bald spot I have?
Some people like
I've
that.
worked with them in the past. Yeah, no, it's a reality. Those are, you don't want to lose them, but you kind of need to lose them, and they might, and you just never know. And you know in your heart, if you tell them to F off, they're going to be listed with somebody else. And oh God, you don't know. Try to find ones that are more motivated. You know, have that talk with them. Promise me if you see a house, call me. Promise me if I email you one, call me. You know, those are the types of things. I mean, and there's like 3 or 4 of you in this room that I can look at and I won't totally stare at this week that said, they want to list it about $100,000 overpriced, should I just try it? What's the answer?
No.
Unless they have a really good reason, right?
You're doing a price reduction with a good percentage to like really entice someone to buy.
Price reduction percentage of where to go. First of all, you got to get them in the market value, right? So that could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We don't know. What I like to do is, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is kind of funny how real estate works. It works very similar to everything else. Everything is in quarters. Like, so if your house is 500, buyers look to 525, then look to 550, then look to 575 to 600. If we're at 579 and we went to 574.9, we opened it up to a whole nother piece of the pie of buyers. And if they say, well, let's go to 559, you can say from 579, you can say, that's great. Let me ask you a question. If somebody was to offer you 549.9, would you take it? Well, sure. Then let's do this. Let's be in the driver's seat, because at 550, there's thousands of real estate agents and buyers that have their searches set to 550. If you price it $1 over 550, all those people are going to miss it. Nobody's going to do it. So let's go to 549.99999. I'll give you the dollar that I'm jacking you on, and we'll go from there. So I always try to go to those chunks, right? And it's really hard if you're at 589.9. You're like, all right, 574.9. You know, those are hard. But you know, you could tell them average negotiation range is typically 3 to 5% of buyer's mind. You know, if somebody came in and offered you 5% less right now, would you take it? Well, 5, that's 25. Yeah, I would probably take it. Great. Let's go ahead and reduce it to that. Because here's what I know. It's better to see offers and turn them down than to not see any offers at all. Wouldn't you agree? So those are the kind of things you have to go through with them. But again, there's nothing wrong. Today, not so much. In the future, that CMA presentation we do that almost weekly. That's how fast the market changes. You price the house at $350, you go home. You wake up in the morning, both sides, $324.9. You're like, oh my God, what the heck did we do? And now they're already pissed at you when they went to bed because somehow you had to do with the price. And now you have to wake up and tell them there's 2 better houses, $25,000. You're just like, oh my God. And then you go to 319.9, and then the one across the street, the agent goes, well, the market's crashing. If you want to beat this one, we better go to 314.9. You know, it just happens and it snowballs and you're like, how did we lose 50 grand over 1 week, you guys? So that's why you have to meet with them all the time. You can't do it over the phone either. It doesn't work. Unless you know they're very motivated and, you know, super ready to go. Okay, what else? Did you guys like some of those price reduction things?
Yes.
Get used to them because we're going to do them a lot. We're going to do the podcast, we're going to do the webinars, we're going to do that because I've already been doing price reductions this week, right? That one on Rain Tree we sold, we went from $624.9 to $599.9 within a matter of 7 days. That was a pre-calculated price reduction. That was like, look, we're going to give it a few days to see if somebody's out there, but it could backfire on you too. You guys might know that really lovely house we have on Via Jardin, right? That $624.9 was a 3 to 5 day try. Sometimes when you do that, they forget that conversation that you've had, right? Now, that's one that we did not write into the listing agreement. So we kind of jacked ourselves on that. So now, well, why do we have to go down that far? Well, that's what we agreed on. I don't remember that. You know, now we're on the market 30 days, which now they're mad. They're talking to other agents. The agents that they know are saying, I told you so, you never should have listed with Mike, he's the worst agent in the world. All this stuff we're dealing with now for no reason, yeah.
Can you teach us how to do the net sheet? Because I feel so bad, I was asking Claudia.
Tell Julie I did not email you that.
I love Claudia, and I know they're a rock star broker.
And that was perfect timing. So in our software, our HomeSmart software, and our MLS, and I hope to God you guys know that, you can do a net sheet. Net sheets are super fast, super easy, and when you do it with the seller in front of them, they really appreciate that. The worst thing you could do is, let's price it at $449.9, and they're like, well, how much am I going to come out with? And you go, how about I get you a net sheet in the morning? They're like, no, I want to know now if I'm going to price my house. So it's very simple. The very easiest way, take your commission plus 2% closing costs, deduct that in their loan amount. That's safe, quick, and easy. Sometimes your analytical might go, well,
You have to say that like 3 times over. Because I see a bunch of like, what? Hold on.
okay, so your closing costs are going to be 8%, right? 6% commission, 2% closing costs. 100,000 minus 8% minus whatever their loan is. And you do that right in front of them on their calculator and say, oh yeah, this is padded, it's probably in your favor a few $100, but this is a good safe number to use. Works 75% of the time. But when the analytical catches you and says, oh hell no, I want to know everything broken down. Yeah, and you could say, I'll get a net sheet from the escrow company in the next several days, but here's something you can bank on for now. In our software, in the MLS, and you should know how to do it anyways, it shows you title, escrow, termite, home warranty, tax stamps, everything you need. You just go down the list with them. It's very simple. You can add things for carpet allowance. Yes, Del?
Oh, that's with your finish. I should say I have a killer good customized net sheet with 3 columns. Their price, my price, somewhere in the middle.
Uh-huh.
And then you show the difference, you know, the difference between selling, not selling. I can do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So a net sheet class for Cindy. Write that down,
Yes.
Julie.
Yeah.
Because I know I'm out of town.